Hi, my name is Sam Crosby, and I live here in Baldwin County. I've been practicing law here for the last 40 years in Baldwin County and feel blessed to be here. Our family goes back before Fort Mims in 1813. One of my ancestors was a survivor of Fort Mims, and I will kind of tell you a little bit more about myself, but tell you that we had a fun thing happen in the family. My granddaughter, in 2013 at the bicentennial celebration of Fort Mims, played the same part as her great, like 5 grandmothers back, and hid under a canoe. And this was her grandmother that many generations back was named Letha Ann Smith, and so she played the same part, which was a lot of fun. So we go back a long way in Baldwin County. The story of my family, a little bit of the Crosby family, is basically my, great-great-grandfather, Sam Crosby, and I'm named after him, never made it back from the Civil War. He was captured in Georgia, transferred to Nashville, and then taken to a prisoner of war camp in Indiana. And he died on his way home from the prisoner of war camp and left 7 orphans. The oldest of the orphans, Roland Boswell Crosby, my Uncle Boss is what they called him, fell in love with an itinerant preacher's daughter. And the minister moved to Stockton, and he followed her there and married her, and then sent for his other 6 siblings who were in Quitman, Mississippi. They walked to Baldwin County with an ox cart, and of course they had to work their way here and work in the fields. And the youngest one, who was a Briars, the Crosbys, the Briars, Macmillans, Masons are all kin up in Stockton. They tied her to a tree while they worked in the fields because they didn't have a babysitter. But one of the fun things I did when I moved to Baldwin County in 1978 permanently was I had an opportunity to write a history about the Crosby family, and this is the book that we did. It's actually available through the Baldwin County Department of Archives and History website. And just kind of, I collected old pictures and fun old stories about our family. So that's a long way of saying we've been here a long time. I'm married. My wife Ann and I have been married. This will soon be 41 years. We have 2 grown children. One of them's a doctor, one of them's a lawyer, 8 grandchildren. And again, we just feel so blessed to be in this beautiful county. One of the other things that I worked on kind of historically is something professionally, and in 2012 I wrote a book on the history of the court system here and funny court stories, and I will tell you a little bit about what inspired me to do this. I collected funny stories for 23 years. Like I told you, I've been here 40 years practicing law, and put those together in the form of a book. The Alabama Law Foundation is the charitable arm of the State Bar Association. So the book was published by the Alabama Law Foundation. The name of the book is The Sleeping Juror, and this is a copy of the book. And I'll tell you about the 2 guys, the 2 things that happened that basically inspired me to do this. I had, in my first year in practice, a couple of two guys come in to see me. I was so proud to be a new lawyer. I'm there in my coat and tie, you know, in a little office and up in a converted gas station up in Bay Minette. We now have 3 offices and 13 lawyers with the growth here in the county. And these 2 guys came in, and both of them were very drunk. And one of them was so drunk he was holding up the other one. And I said, "Now what can I do for you gentlemen?" And he said, "He wants to make a will, leave everything to me." Well, it wasn't very professional, but I burst out laughing, and I said, "Well, you tell him to come back when he's feeling better. when he's by himself. Of course, I never saw him again, but I remembered that story and just thought, you know, I need to record some of this. And then I served for 6 years as a municipal judge in Loxley, and I had a fellow come in on a speeding ticket. He was charged with speeding in Loxley, and his defense was that the town of Loxley had no jurisdiction over him or his car because he was an interplanetary traveler. And he pulled out a driver's license with his picture on it and his name, and he wrote a brief to the court that was, I don't know how many pages, 12 pages, arguing his case that the court had no jurisdiction over him because he was an interplanetary traveler. And I thought, now I got to record some of this. So through the years, I wrote down funny court stories that I'd heard from other lawyers here in the area and combined that with a history of the court system going all the way back to the founding of the county and Abraham Baldwin. A couple of things real briefly, and in the book there's a picture of Abraham Baldwin, of course, and then the first 2 codes of the laws of the state of Alabama were written by Baldwin County lawyers, which is something a lot of people don't know. Our most important historical figure was a man named Judge Harry Tolman, and he wrote the first code of the laws of the state of Alabama. And we just had a lot of history, so when I wrote the book, I sort of interlaced, if you will, historical notes with funny stories to make it better reading. But the long and short of it is it's raised over $60,000 for charitable purposes of the Alabama Law Foundation. I want to tell you a little bit more about the history of my family. One of the sort of salient things about our family is for generations they've emphasized 2 things. My great-grandfather, Brown Crosby, couldn't read or write, but what he encouraged in his children has really lasted now for generations, and that was, first of all, encourage them in their faith, and the second of all, to give them the best education you can give them. And what's kind of unique about our family, I think a little bit, is even though he couldn't read or write, and they lived in Stockton, and anybody that knows Baldwin County knows how big Stockton is, a tiny place, all of his children, including the women, went to college, which was very unusual in those days. They all got a college education, and he saw to that. And so we've sort of had that charge through the generations to encourage our children in their faith and help get them the best education you can get them. And that's been a real help for all of us through the years, sort of those lessons we learned. One of the things that we've all loved so much about Baldwin County is its natural beauty. One of my earliest memories is of a neighbor, Mr. and Ms. Pfeiffer, who lived next door to us years ago when I was a little boy, said to me, Sam, I didn't know what she was talking about at the time, but she said, Sam, Baldwin County is God's country. And I had no idea what she was saying, but I sure understand now. I absolutely continue to be, almost at age 67, overwhelmed with the natural beauty of God's creation here in Baldwin County. We had some characters in our family. One of the stories about our family that I enjoyed is, as I told you, it was Crosby's, Macmillan's, Briars, but this would have been my great aunt, Tilly, Matilda, they called her Tilly Briars. And they had found her when she was 90 years old. She had jumped over a fence. She was a tough lady. And they found her lying on the ground. And this was, I think her granddaughter said, Grandmother, what in the world, why did you do that? And she said, I wanted to get to the other side of that fence. So, we have some tough characters back in the background, as all of us do, but We've been blessed with a big family here in Baldwin County with a lot of love. I'll say this, most of the families settled in the Stockton area, in Bay Minette, and then in Foley. Some of our family, the first hospital administrator at the South Baldwin Hospital was Marshall Crosby, a cousin of mine, and Wright's Drugs, which is on the main corner of Foley at the corner of 59 and 98. They have just recently, in the last few years, closed, but it was a real institution. When I was a little boy, that was Crosby Drugs, and some other cousins, Martin and Mary Crosby, ran that drugstore. So we're kind of all over the county, and you'll run into us, and just can't imagine a better place to have your roots. To talk a little bit about the history of my law practice here in Baldwin County, I moved down here in 1978 and started practicing law here. In 1977, I came to work for a couple lawyers as a law clerk up in a converted gas station up in Bay Minette. And one of them was Norman Stone. His father and grandfather were lawyers here in Baldwin County. There are pictures of them in there. We're lawyers in this community. So the roots of our firm goes back a long, long ways, I think to about the 1890s. But anyway, when I was interviewed by him, he said something that really struck me. He said, really what we'd like to do, Sam, is practice good ethical law. And I said, that's where I want to be. And so I ended up turning down some jobs that paid more, quite frankly, across the bay, and began to work with them. And in those days, we really practiced what you'd call door law. Our specialty was door law. And that means anything that walked in the door, we handled. The law has gotten so complicated now that it's hard to pull that off. But now I'm sitting here in an office, and we've got 13 lawyers in 3 offices, a Bay Minette office, a Daphne office, a Foley office, and it's awful hard to just practice anything, door law, anything that walks in the door. So our practice has changed through the years, but it's really remarkable the changes in the legal profession in this period here in Baldwin County. When I started, there were not very many lawyers. Most of them were congregated around the courthouse in Bay Minette. But one of the remarkable things, I think, if someone asked me what's changed historically, is the technology. I have a daughter who is a lawyer who's worked with us for about 13 or 14 years. She doesn't even live in this state. We have a screen in our main conference room, so when we need her for a conference, click, she's up on the screen, and she does research and writing, writes briefs, works on intellectual property matters, a lot of different things, a lot of the areas I work in, wills, trusts, and estates, real property. But what a remarkable change that is, that we have that technology, that someone could do that. In the year 2007, I had something fun happen in relation to the Bar Association. All the lawyers in the state of Alabama, all 15,000 of them, lost their mind at the same time and elected me president of the State Bar Association. I've got a copy of the magazine here they print out, the Alabama Lawyer, and I'm on the cover with the lady I asked to be the vice president, who is a wonderful woman lawyer in Birmingham, a great friend of mine, and it was just a wonderful opportunity to, I think, be inclusive. And one of the kind of core beliefs I have is that we're all children of God. We're all loved equally, and we need to act that way. We need to treat each other as brothers and sisters. And so I had an opportunity to sort of include in my work people of all types of practices, small towns, solo practitioners to big firms, women, men, African American lawyers, Asian American lawyers, and it was remarkable what we were blessed with accomplishing. One of the things I remember well, I'll never forget, going into the Alabama Supreme Court and presenting a request to increase funding for civil legal aid to the poor in this state. And we were successful. I worked with the Chief Justice, and I knew at that moment that would be the highlight of my career, because it meant millions and millions of dollars, and will continue to do so in the future, in funding for civil legal aid to the poor. So it was really exciting to have this job, and I'm probably going to get myself in trouble with you guys, but I know that I had to be interviewed and different things. And I remember one time Alicia Bennett and I, they were trying to take a film of us, and I think we kept laughing so much it took them like 20 takes to finally get something they could use. But anyway, I just really enjoyed that experience, and there have only been, at that, I guess now, there have been 2 of us as lawyers in Baldwin County in the last 139 years that got the opportunity to serve in that position, so it was a lot of fun. One of the things about practicing law in an area like this also is I've had an opportunity to do a lot of things. I mentioned I've served as a municipal judge for 6 years. I also served in the JAG Corps of the United States Naval Reserve for 11 years, and that was a blessing. I just learned so much and felt so blessed to serve the country. And then also I've taught at the University of South Alabama, taught business law at night. And so I've had the type of practice that I've been able to do a lot of different things, which has been a lot of fun for me. And it's just been really interesting to me to see the changes in this county and the changes in the legal system here. One other thing I wanted to talk about and tell you about in terms of serving as president of the Alabama State Bar is I got to write a column for every magazine during that year. It's a president's page, and this was the first edition that came out while I was president. But I purposely titled this column "Riding in the Presidential Limousine" and put the old beat-up Toyota that had 176,000 miles on it, or whatever, well, 100, I don't remember how many, under 150 maybe, around 150,000 miles on it, as the presidential limousine that I was riding in, so that I could try and encourage lawyers to think about their priorities. Sometimes, you know, we all, how can I say it, get our priorities out of whack. And what I discovered, I was on a selection committee for the Alabama Lawyers Hall of Fame, which is in the Supreme Court building in Montgomery. And I studied the lives of great lawyers in the history of this state, and almost all of them had the same set of priorities. They put their faith first, their family second, and the law third. So in this column, I tried to encourage us to do that. So it was fun to have an opportunity to sort of get a message out to the lawyers in the state also. One of the things that's interesting about practicing law here is that for many years, the lawyers were just kind of congregated around the courthouse. And back when I started, there was only one courthouse here in Baldwin County, County Courthouse, and that was there in Bay Minette. And my law partner, Norburn Stone's grandfather, who practiced here, started his practice in Daphne, Alabama, around the courthouse. When the county seat was moved from Daphne to Bay Minette in 1901, of course, there went his source of business. So he moved from Daphne to Bay Minette, and all the lawyers did. And what's happened due to the just remarkable growth in this county is we now have 3 courthouses. We have the main courthouse in Bay Minette, but we have a satellite courthouse in Fairhope and another one in Foley just to service the citizens. And of course we hold court in all 3 of them, but it's just a whole new day in terms of practicing law here. When you get a notice now that a hearing is set, you better be real careful checking which courthouse you're supposed to go to, because it's a terrible feeling if you're at the wrong one and the client's at the other one, or you get the point. One of the things about our law firm that's unusual is that we have the 3 offices fully integrated in one county. I don't know there's another firm in the Southeast that has 3 separate offices that are fully integrated with their system. And that's been a challenge, because I have to tell you, there have been occasions, I hate to admit it, that I had a client in one office, me in the second office, and the file in the third office. But thank goodness with technology, we've been able to correct that. And I think that may have only happened once in 40 years, but we got it remedied. One of the things I really love about this county is the cultural diversity. When there have been efforts to split the county into 2 counties just because we're so large, I have been totally opposed to that. I think one of the unique characteristics about this county is you have places like Malbus, which, as we all know, was basically founded and developed by Jason Malbus, and was a Greek farm sort of set up on a communal system. We've got that beautiful Greek Orthodox church there, and still a number of really fine contributing citizens of Greek heritage there in Malbus. You go to Alberta, you have the same thing with the citizens from Germany that basically settled there. Daphne, the Italian community. And I think that's just wonderful. Silver Hill, Czechoslovakian community. And it's just been wonderful to be a part of living in this diverse culture. And when I was a little boy, when you went through Malbus and you got a tank of gas there at the gas station, it was not unusual to have somebody pumping that gas that didn't speak English. So that's how much this county has changed. And just to be a part of this and to be blessed to live here like we do, I can't imagine there's any place in North America or the world better than Baldwin County. One of the hobbies that I really love, maybe the most in many ways right now, is fishing. And we are just so blessed with all these beautiful waterways and such great fishing. Last week, I went out at 5:30 in the afternoon, and so you can work pretty much a full day. Got out in the boat and caught a 13-pound black drum and just had a ball. And one of the things I've tried to encourage with my grandchildren too, along with the faith and education, is I want them to be fishermen and fisherwomen. And so I take them, and they know that's something Granddaddy wants to do. And I know I've got one buddy with a pond there in Fairhope. I better not mention the name because I'll get myself in trouble. But he, when I bring these grandkids down, he has a timer on his pond and feeds those brim. So we try and show up. You know, brim are like cattle. You feed the cattle at the same time, they'll show up at the same time. Brim are the same way. So when I bring those grandkids down there and they put a cricket on a hook, those brim are like piranha going after that hook. And so how can you beat that? What could be more fun with the grandkids than that? Or taking them out riding behind an inner tube in a boat on these beautiful waterways, or just letting them drive the boat a little and honk the horn and enjoy this beautiful place. I had something fun happen to me in Montgomery in February of 1986. I had an argument before the Alabama Supreme Court, and when I got up to the Supreme Court, I found that I had maybe 2 extra hours that I was prepared for the argument, so I had some time to kill. And I went over to the Alabama State Archives and just was looking then in the microfiche back in those days, and found something about a newspaper published in Bay Minette in 1899 through 1902, and it was called the American Banner. The man that published the newspaper published it out of his own home, and it's really a remarkable newspaper. He was very prophetic in some ways in what he put in that newspaper, and his name was Stephen Boykin. He was really a great early African-American leader here in Baldwin County. He started the first school for African-American children here. His children went on to do pretty remarkable things. They're known here in the county well. Many of them are in education, and we are, in his honor, working on a monument for the bicentennial coming up of Baldwin County, the celebration, to recognize him for his great accomplishments. It's going to be placed there at the Douglasville High School Museum in Bay Minette, which was just dedicated within the last year. So a wonderful tribute to someone who was really a pioneer here in Baldwin County during the early days. One of the other things I'll say about Baldwin County historically is the more you dig into things like this, the richer you find our heritage. One of our clients for many years has been the Bay Minette Land Company, which basically founded, if you will, the town of Bay Minette, along with Han Land Company, but Bay Minette Land Company. And as we look back through the old Bay Minette Land Company records, we learned that one of the first shareholders was William Tecumseh Sherman's son, believe it or not. And he had come, that family had come through Baldwin County and was so impressed, one of the members of the family, that they wanted to be involved in an investment in Baldwin County. They were from New York. And actually, because of their relationships, there was money that was sent by wealthy donors in New York to help start the first electrical plant in Bay Minette, and actually help start the Hampton D. Ewing Library. The Ewing family adopted, actually, William Tecumseh Sherman when he was a young boy. So there's that connection to Bay Minette that few people know about. And I wrote a little article for the newspaper about that. But the more you look, the more interesting things you find about the history of this county. One of the other things that's fun about being here practicing law is I know that the lawyers here take very seriously our obligation to serve the community. And I've worked on a lot of projects through the years for nonprofit corporations, for churches that are doing things to help others here. For example, the Lighthouse, which is the domestic violence shelter here, I was involved with working on that from the very onset. And it's just been remarkable to see through the years the thousands of people that they have helped. And I know fairly recently I had a chance to work on a little bit of a fundraiser for something called Under His Wings. Under His Wings is a not-for-profit shelter for at-risk teenage girls. And I wanted to see if I could figure out a way to help them with a little bit of the finances. I've also donated legal services. But anyway, so I had wanted to work on a book that would teach what I think is a crucial character trait to my grandchildren. One of the keys to the contentment in my life, and I feel content, thank you Lord, is Thanksgiving. And what the studies have shown is that children that are taught to be thankful have fewer colds, do better in school, socially better adjusted, less materialistic, on and on and on. So I wanted to be sure that these grandchildren got that message. So I went about a project, and there's a man named Dr. Hans Selye who started, they know him as Dr. Stress. He started the first big stress clinic. He was a Nobel laureate, and at the end of his life, he wrote that there's nothing better for a person's emotional and physical health than an attitude of thanksgiving. St. Paul wrote over 2,000 years ago, rejoice always, pray constantly, give thanks in all circumstances. So what I started to do, I told you that I wrote a children's book, and it wasn't any good. I love to write. I know when the product's no good. The product was no good. So I said, I still want to do this. So I started calling my friends, and I sat down with one of them, and I said, this is my idea, and I want to help some people with this, but I don't have the money here. And he says, I'll get you the money. And he happened to be on the board of an organization that helped fund things like that. I'm like, wow. So then I didn't have a product, but I called my friend Karen Wilson, who's there at Page and Pallet, and I said, here's what I want to do. It's a great idea, I'll help you. I don't have a product, what I wrote's no good. She said, one of my best friends is a children's book author. Bring that to her, we'll write the book. And so, what do you know? I got myself a product. Then I went to my friend Allison Jackson, who's a very fine artist here on the Eastern Shore. And I said, Allison, this is what I'm thinking. I'm going to do the art for you, Sam. I'm going to do, and I haven't done watercolor. I want to do it all in watercolor. I'm like, wow, thank you, Lord. So then I called my friend Dr. Nina Hunt, who is kind of the founding mother, if you will, for Under His Wings, this domestic violence shelter in Robertsdale. And I said, Nina, I'm putting this thing together, and if we make any money on the sales, could we donate it to Under His Wings? I hear this weeping on the phone. So, wow. So we went for that, and we went on and put together this little children's book. I ended up writing the foreword for it and have been using it as a fundraiser for Under His Wings. And it teaches in a way that is crystal clear the message to children to be thankful for what you have. And the scenes in here artistically, I know one of them is of Mobile Bay, and we tried to, for example, on this cover is a picture, a painting in front of Page and Pallet Bookstore in Fairhope. And they used, it was kind of fun because we used our own grandchildren and children as models, but I've got these three right here are grandson, four of them really. This is a great nephew and a great niece and a granddaughter, but throughout they just used our kids or grandkids as models. It was a lot of fun putting together, and thank goodness we've raised some money to help some people. Obviously I love history, and one of the things I'm hoping to do is teach my children and grandchildren to be interested in history and maybe help us not repeat some of the same mistakes and find the positive things in our family's history and really other people's history. I know I love to, whenever I meet with someone who is 95 or older, I like to ask them, do you have any words of wisdom at this point in your life, if they have the mental acuity to answer that question? And I met with a gentleman down in South Baldwin County about 3 or 4 months ago, and I asked him that question. And a lot of them are, by then, you know, it's interesting, when you get that age, you got the wisdom that you just don't talk much. And he didn't have a whole lot to say, so I said, well, don't you have something? He said, well, yes, I do. He said, learn from the mistakes of others because you're not going to live long enough to make them all yourself. And so historically, let's learn from the mistakes of others and do it better. And I'm very positive, I will say that, and optimistic about the future of our county. There's just no other way to put it. I know that it's been an interesting run for me. My father and my mother, I was blessed with a wonderful mother and father that loved this area. And my father, when I was a little boy, we'd always be down here every holiday when we were not even living in state. My father's career took him to Illinois for many years, and I was actually born in Evanston, Illinois, baptized down here, all our families here, so it was a little bit of the product of two cultures. I mentioned how important education was all the way back to the great-grandfather who couldn't read or write and encouraged this in our family. And not to brag on my father, but he went to Murphy High School, Mobile. His dad was over there working at the First National Bank of Mobile. And I actually have got the teller bars that when he was a teller at that bank, he had, which would be about 100 years ago. I'm going to give those to my grandson that has the same name, Joseph. The next time he's here, he's 7 years old. But anyway, my dad went on from Murphy, went in the Merchant Marine, then went to what's now Rhodes College. It was Southwestern, but then went to the Harvard Business School, which was very unusual for people from this area to wind up there. And he had a wonderful career. I was blessed with a mother that just loved everybody, and everybody loved her. But anyway, Dad would take me around the woods of Stockton when I was a little boy. I'm one of 6 children. Always took me, it seemed like. Maybe my brother would go, maybe a sister would go, to see all of our cousins. And I mean, we got a lot of cousins. It would be a long day. He just loved to go visit them. And I can just remember, and they were all so welcoming, and everybody loved each other, and it just was a wonderful environment to grow up with that great extended family. One of the benefits as a lawyer is when I opened shop and started practicing law, I had instant clients. Now, a lot of them didn't pay the bills. They came for free legal advice, but they'd remind people, you know, your cousin Sam's over there, you might want to go see him if you need some work done. So, one of the things, you know, the truth of the matter is there are difficult times too. My dad, one of the places he loved to fish was up in Holly Creek, which is up in North Baldwin County. And I remember he died suddenly in August of 1997. The night before he died, we had dinner together, and he said, he used to call me Matt Dillon. That was his nickname. Matt Dillon was my hero on Gunsmoke, y'all. Some of y'all remember Matt Dillon. It was a TV show, the Marshal of Dodge City. But anyway, he said, Matt, I may go fishing tomorrow. And I said, well, Dad, why don't I go with you? He was 83 at the time. And he said, I don't know if I'm going to go. And so anyway, it didn't work out. We went together. But he went up to Holly Creek by himself and died during that fishing trip. He died of heart failure. And this is another blessing of Baldwin County, that his friends went and retrieved that body. Clem Parnell, who's a game warden up there, and others went and found my dad. And I took my mother with me. She called, she said, your father has not come home. And we went up there, and when they brought his body in, she said, and they'd been married 54 years or whatever it was, I'm going to go with him. I said, no, Mom, you need to come home with me. So there's some painful memories still in Baldwin County, but as soon as we got over the shock of that death, we just continued to be thankful for all the years we had together. I told you I'm one of 6 children. My older brother, Ray, died suddenly also of heart failure. So we've dealt with some pain, but we've just been so blessed with the friends that have come alongside of us and reminded us that we're loved and every day is a gift from Him. One of the other fun things about practicing law here has been experiences like this one that occurred, gosh, it must be 35 years ago now. I had a man come in to see me in our Bay Minette office that had worked for my great-grandfather. And he came in to get a will done, and I don't think there are many lawyers in this country that can say they did work for somebody that worked for their great-grandfather. As I recall, this man could not write, couldn't sign his name, so we set it up. There's a method under the Alabama law to basically execute a will under those circumstances, and we used that method, but I just thought it was a real privilege to be able to work for somebody that had worked for my great-grandfather. I've got a picture of this gentleman. I'd like to finish with a scripture passage that has meant a lot to me. I think hopefully has given me more wisdom, meant a lot to contentment in my life, helped me be a better family member, serve others, be a better citizen of this community and this country. And it's out of Micah 6:8. And it says, "What does the Lord require of you but to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with your God?"